Hello there, people of the internet. I want to address this because I've seen it quite a few times in my comments. There just seems to be this stigma of people who thinks that because of what we have nowadays, the technology that is available to us in terms of firearms, technology, they think that old guns are less effective or even less deadly simply because this new stuff exists. Now, full disclosure, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, the new stuff, the newer technologies such as your ARs and your AKs and rifles and firearms that have means to be able to mount accessories like optics and lights and whatnot, those definitely are going to be the more effective firearm on whatever situation it is that you want to apply them to. However, just because those are more effective, that does not make the older generations of firearms any less deadly. People are still as soft and squishy as they've been for the past 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, maybe even more so today than back then if we want to get into that subject, but we'll go ahead and save that one for another video. People are just as soft and squishy nowadays as they used to be. If we have ourselves, let's go ahead and start off with this right here. If we have ourselves a 45 ACP 1911, there's a lot of people out there who will tell you that this right here is not a good option in comparison to what is available nowadays, especially because 9mm has gotten so many improvements over the years in terms of its capabilities and ability to transfer energy, with lack of better terminology because I'm trying to pick my words here very carefully. A lot of people have problems with the fact that it's a heavy single stack gun with a limited capacity, etc., etc. There are definitely better options out there in terms of concealed carry firearms. However, that does not, just because those better options exist, that does not make this right here a less effective option. The 1911 is still a single stack 45 ACP that will send lead that's, pokes a 45 caliber hole inside of its target. Of course, the newer stuff is going to have its benefits, but the older stuff, just because the newer stuff has benefits, the older stuff does not decrease in value. We just have things that are more valuable and more capable. But I see people in the comments and they seem to think that these right here have just kind of fallen to the wayside to the point to where you can't even do damage with them anymore. Even if we have something like this old cap and ball revolver here, I was actually out shooting this at the range the other day. I even put up a couple of shorts on the YouTube channel about it. And I was shooting this through like a 2x4 with my round ball. I had 30 grains of black powder. So this right here, I mean, just because something like a semi-automatic with a magazine that allows for faster reloads and whatnot, just because something like this right here exists, that does not make this less effective. This right here is more effective, I will acknowledge that, and it's definitely the better option, but this being more effective does not make this less effective. And that's one of the things that I wanted to go ahead and point out. Actually, this is another really good example. I got this on the table here. This is my Oviedo Mauser. This particular one used to be 7mm. It's been rechambered for 7.62 set me technically, but I've shot a tremendous amount of 7.62 NATO through it, and it has handled it just fine. But this right here is the old school fighting rifle. Like, for a very long time, this right here was the de facto go-to style of rifle that militaries went to, just because it was the most effective means to be able to send lead downrange, not only effectively, but also cost-effectively. These are extremely simple rifles. They're very simple and easy to produce, unlike something like a lever action. They definitely have their benefits. However, in the modern day, something like an AR as a fighting rifle is going to absolutely blow this manual bolt-action rifle out of the water in terms of capability. However, just because the AR is more capable, that does not make this right here less capable or less deadly. This right here being 7.62 NATO, it doesn't matter if we have this rifle that is, existing right now, or we have this rifle that was existing back in, I don't know, the 1950s. If you shoot somebody with a 7.62 NATO, they're going to have quite the sizable hole in them, especially if you're using a soft point, which I tend to use because they are a much more fun round than a full metal jacket. Maybe I'll make a video on that one later too. But yes, the modern stuff, of course, more modern, better technology, more effective, more capable and whatnot, but the capabilities of those, just because capability has gone up with those, does not mean capability is going down with these. And that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss in this video. Yes, new stuff exists. Yes, it is by and large the the more viable options if you want to be able to do something like conceal carry a handgun. This right here is not the greatest of options to be able to do that, but if you wanted to do it, this is still going to send 45 ACP downrange, and it's still going to poke a hole in your target. It's still going to be as effective against your target as it was against, I don't know, the Germans or the Japanese in World War II, or even, you know, World War I, if we want to look at the actual history of the 1911. But of course, everyone is infatuated with World War II, so I guess that's just the reference that I decided to use. But yeah, if we have a German in today's time or a German in 1944, this right here is still going to do the same kind of damage to the human body. And this right here, this is a 44 caliber. This right here is still going to do the same kind of damage to the human body that it did 150 years ago. Or this Mauser right here. I mean, there's firearms on par with 7.62 NATO, like 7.5 French, or I don't know, 303 British is pretty comparable, 7.62 by 54R, etc., etc. They're still going to have the same effect on the human body that they've been having for the past 100+ years. Now, the firearms that we have, yeah, they're a little bit better at doing it, but just because they're better, that doesn't mean that these right here have diminished any. That's the whole point of this video. I wanted to go ahead and touch up on this subject because, like I said, I have seen this many times in the comments. People are just under the assumption that if you are carrying around something like this right here, you're basically already dead because something like this right here is completely ineffective in their minds in comparison to the modern stuff. Now, this right here will still send 45 ACP downrange, and if that smacks into a soft, gelatinous person, it's still going to poke a 45 caliber hole in them just like it did many, many years ago. So that's my 2 cents on this. I wanted to make this video because, well, honestly, I wanted a reference to be able to send links to people just to have my opinion, I guess. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.